Board games, board games, it's what I'll be talking about. Board games, board games, I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing. Today I'm talking about 10 games I love and why they are one, at least one of them is above my head up high. Board games, I'm not gonna shout. Board games, it's what I'm talking about. Hello, Xate, and yeah, good to see you. I am Bez. It is bedtime in some countries. We are blethering about board games, and today I am talking about 10 games I love and why. And there's, yeah, quite a few games. I just to explain how I did this. So I went through all my shelves and was like, okay, what's the game I love? Okay, I love that. I love that one. Yeah, I love that one. Okay, and then I took off about 17 games. Then I was like, oh wow, that's more than 10. And then I was like, okay, these two I don't actually love that much. So if I can't decide between these 15, how am I going to decide? And then I decided I'm not just going to talk about games I love, but also games that I would recommend, because by virtue of saying how much I love them and why, it's also kind of a recommendation, isn't it? And so, yeah, then I'm going to talk about those games that didn't quite make the cut, but I do love them somewhat. And, I realized that even though I've got some love for Magic, that was partially because it was on the top of my cupboard, but then I was like, yeah, I'm not, nah, that didn't really come into it. Yeah, just the business model. So, yeah. Hi again, Xate. Hi, Alan. It is lovely to see you both. And yes, congratulations to Chris, who is now moderator in Twitch, because, yeah, I mean, it was more than a week. It was like a good few weeks that Chris came in. And yeah, because I know Chris personally, there's a little bit of, I'm not going to deny there is some shenanigans. Anyway, lots of love to you all. I hope you're all doing well. And that is what is coming up in about 10 minutes. Firstly, we are going to go through the regular features and start off talking about a brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant? I think we've talked about squares, we've talked about circles, we've not talked about rectangles. I mean, it's not just squares that are pretty brilliant, but like any form of rectangles. I mean, rectangles, without rectangles, we wouldn't have cuboids. And cuboids are pretty good box shapes. I mean, cuboids nicely stacked together. I mean, basically what I'm all about is the cuboid, if I'm being honest. Like, just cuboids are brilliant. I mean, cuboids, they tile nicely. Without cuboids, we wouldn't have brick walls. We wouldn't have, like, planks of wood. Oh my gosh, like, there's so many amazing things that are cuboids. I just want to say, yes, cuboids are brilliant. Yeah, and yeah, indeed. Boxes. Most boxes are, except for those, like, silly boxes, which are, trapezoids or cylindrical. I mean, those boxes. Anyway, yay for cuboids. Now, let's talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights. Recent highlights, playing games and other delights. Recent highlights. Okay, oof. I'm not very well prepared, but I do have some photos on Twitter. I wanted to tell you that I have played a couple of games recently, and there's been some, with Layla, and also on stream. It was lovely being with Xate virtually and having that raid from Runa, and then doing the raid to Losapalooza. That was really nice. It kind of feels a little bit like parts of a community. Do you know what I mean? And so everyone in chat, feel free to tell me what are your recent highlights. What have you enjoyed? Have you played any games recently? Have you? Why isn't it? Here we go. So here's a couple of games that I played with Layla yesterday. We played Blocus to Go, which is this is Layla's copy. It's a special two-player version of Blocus. For those who don't know it, you need to take turns placing pieces of your color, and a piece of your color must touch a previous piece of your color on the corner, but not on the side. And obviously, the first piece that you place is exempt because there's nothing else on the board. Now, it's quite a bit different from the four-player game. You get right in each other's faces straight away. It's really good and intense, and I really dug this. And then we also played Ticket to Ride New York, which was the first Ticket to Ride I'd bought since, I think, Ticket to Ride USA. And I'm really enjoying this. It's like, it's just like a little knife fight. It's not dragging out. You really compete with each other. And so, yeah, I know I'm enjoying London as well, and that was good. And then we played Micro Muckle, which I think I lost both the games, and Aquaslutz and Ilse, who won? Xate, maybe you can remind me. But amazing. So that sounds like that's something to look forward to. Alan Outson played Exit the Game, The Abandoned Cabin. Oof, this is like good fun, isn't it? Those are like almost like an escape room in a box, but it's not really. I mean, you don't get the physical tactile thing, but you get the little feel of it. And so, yeah. And yeah, Chris are you talking about Ticket to Ride New York or Blocus? Speaking of Ticket to Ride New York, that was a close contender. Leafda is, and Leafda is won both of the games, and Aqua managed to also win one. And hello, Javier, it is lovely to see you, as always. And I've got 10 games to talk about why I love them, and then 7 games to talk about why I don't love them quite as much. I mean, I didn't need to talk about the 7 games, but I'm going to do that. And in working out which one of the 15 to kind of remove, and then when it was down to 11, it was really difficult. So I basically, if I'm being honest, like I've got to top one, I've got to then like 3 tied for second, and then a bunch tied for like 4 for whatever, and then if I did it in a week's time, it would totally be different. And that's the reason why I don't say this is my top 10 games that I love. It is the top 10 for today, but I don't want to say this is my top 10 forever and ever. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, how many of these 17 games will you also like? How many games will Xates also like? Betting is open now. Okay, but tell me what highlights you've had if you want to. And whilst you're typing out your highlights, I'm going to ask myself some questionably quick questions. Or invite you to ask me some questionably quick questions. Let me look at the list to see. Okay, where exactly am I? I am in my bedroom in London, in North London. Like Finsbury Park is that way, Downhills Park is like that way, and Seven Sisters is that way, and Turnpike Lane is that way. So if you know those places, you know approximately where I am. Finsbury Park is probably like the biggest landmark. I'm 2 miles away from there, and it is 10:12 a.m. according to my thing. Yeah. What time did I wake up? I woke up quite early. I woke up about 6:32. I was going to go back to bed, but then I did have a wee look at my phone, and then I got into some conversations, arguably ironic, because I had just been watching a so-called documentary on Netflix yesterday called, I think, Social Network, The Dilemma, something like that. I mean, I say a so-called documentary because, yes, there were people talking about it, but there was also lots of kind of drama thing. It was like weird. It was a juxtaposition of like, hey, here's like a short drama section followed by a bit of people talking, and it was definitely pushing an agenda, which is totally fair because I think it like everything pushes an agenda. Like, let's not say that Michael Moore's documentaries don't push an agenda. Everything pushes an agenda. Everything's political, to misquote, to paraphrase Skunk Anansie, good song. But yeah, this morning I got into some conversations and I just kind of stayed up. Anyway, and have I had breakfast? No, I haven't. This is my breakfast. Despite the label on it, it is actually a mixture of effervescent vitamin C and effervescent multivitamins in water. So, any other questionably quick questions or things? What else? So there's no other things except that some people are wanting to see Chris's sword, and Sates has been asking that for weeks apparently. Yep, it says the final effervescent vitamin C tablets. I've got plenty of multivitamins, but I don't know why. There's no more effervescent vitamin C in Lidl. What's up with that? Sad times, but the multivitamins probably got it. Anyway, so I think that about does it for the regular features. That feels quite... Oh, let me talk about a typical day recently. Normally, I wake up and then I kind of... Yeah, man, I feel embarrassed now. I wake up and then I normally go onto the internet and then I kind of, okay, yeah, here, let's check stuff out. I was trying to take a walk every morning, but then the past couple of weeks I've had a really throat. I've not felt completely up to it. I do want to get back into exercise, yeah, for sure. I normally get bathed, wash myself, get shaved, get showered before I do the stream. Then after the stream, like, I try to do a bit of work. Recently, I've been trying to stop work around like 5 o'clock or so. I mean, I say that I do that, but like last night when I was laying in bed at like 10 or 11, I was, okay, let's send off a few messages. Like this morning, I sent some messages to Shem Phillips and Martin Wallace, name dropping. Fingers crossed they were actually... I mean, I've actually met Martin Wallace in real life. I mean, but they've not sent me their bios yet. So, fingers crossed that'll all happen. And then sometimes I try to, after I finish up, when I was with my parents, we used to play some games together. While I'm here in London, I'm going, obviously it's only been like, 3 days, but I'm going to try and, maybe play some games with other people, maybe play some games on my own, maybe wander around. I'm going to try and keep up that aspect. Anyway, that's a typical day for me. And so, yeah, other people have asked questions. Favorite tea blend? I like ginger. Ginger. I don't care what's with it, just lemon and ginger. Oh, the free gingers. The free gingers, the pocket tea. Oh my God, the pocket free gingers. That's amazing. Okay, yep. Favorite season of the year? Summer. Yep. In the UK, definitely the so-called summer. In Iran, probably spring or autumn. Yep. In Thailand, I quite like the rainy season. Yeah, I like the rainy season in Thailand. So obviously it depends where we are. Yep, and there are 4 Musketeers. And no, you've not missed any of the 10. I'm just getting to it. And hello, Captain J. Wesker. It is lovely to have us. So, yeah, this is lovely to have you all. And as always, feel free to comment, ask questions, fun, like, follow, all that good stuff. And now I am going to, in one moment, talk about the 10 games I love and why. But before I talk about that, I want to talk about the things that didn't quite make the list. So, first game that didn't quite make the list. These two were in the when I first looked on my shelves. I was like, yeah, I really like Ticket to Ride New York. I've already told you how much I love Ticket to Ride New York. I mean, Ticket to Ride, it's a fairly decent game. There's a fair bit of luck to it because it's like, okay, what tickets do you get? Like, it's got this nice mixture of mid-game scoring, and so you get a sense of how you're doing, how the other person's doing, but it's got these crazy end-game tickets that you could get, like, plus 14 or minus 14 if you don't manage to do it. So you never feel like you're completely out of the game because you've always got that little bit of hope. Anyway, Ticket to Ride, it's good, but for what it is, which is a fairly simplistic game, it's just a bit too long. Now, if that one is 40 minutes, then this one is about 10 or 12 minutes. This one is where it's at. Now, you can play this in a relaxed manner and like be like 20 minutes. You could play it with drunk people who are going out for smoke breaks. I'm not going to name any names, but someone here is in a relationship with one of the people that I'm talking about. Anyway, so you could play it with people who are, drinking, getting a wee bit merry and going out for smoke breaks, and maybe it lasts 40 minutes, whereas the full game, oh my gosh, I don't see if that's like 3 times the length. My God, 2 hours of Ticket to Ride USA, that would be terrible. But at least here, like, okay, people get to know it. It lasts a bit shorter. And I'm not saying Ticket to Ride's a bad game, therefore it should be shorter. What I'm saying is that Ticket to Ride, there is a little bit of tension at the end that, how does the mid-game scoring compare to the end? That little knife fight, it works this way. Because at the end, it's like, yeah, we can even play again if we want. The first time I played this, like about 3 months before it was released at an industry event, and I was like, my God, this is so good. Played it 3 times that night, and I was like, yeah, I'm getting this when it comes out. So that's Ticket to Ride. New York is not my number 10. That's close. And hello, Dave. It's lovely to see you, Dave. Hey. Aw. And now, next game that didn't quite make my top 10, but this is one of the best legacy games out there. No joke. Seriously, I mean, look, it's not a game with a story. It's not a game that's strategic. But frankly, if you want a legacy game, if you want a game that you play and then you change a thing, and then you play and then you change a thing, wouldn't you want that game to be as short as possible? And so that's why I think that we didn't playtest this at all is quite a good thing for legacy games. Because, yeah, you work through it and then it's completely ridiculous. It's got cards that you write on. It's got bits that you open and then it's completely ridiculous. And it's good, just, yeah. And Xate says, teach them patience. No more cigarettes till after the game. Yeah, I'm done with that. So this is... Now, things in my top, I want to say 15. Wait, have I miscounted? Oh, no. Yeah, things in my top 15 that didn't quite make it. Battleship. Lovely game. It is very similar to Hey, That's My Fish. Going around the board, I was like, okay, there's quite a few other things in here. I think the reason that I didn't put it in... is frankly just because it was on the cusp of it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go with something that's a little bit different. So, because I already had a couple of abstract of perfect information strategic games, I absolutely love Corridor. The reason I love Corridor is because it's so unlike any other abstract strategy game out there where you're building this corridor and also it always pushes towards an end. Every single piece that you're placing, it's like, oh my God, you're getting closer to the end. You're getting closer to the end. And then, yeah. So, no, I have, they're not just, yeah, I actually put them all here before. So, here are a couple of games that are really nice. Say Anything. Really, really nice game. I have brilliant memories of it, and I had so many good times with it. It's still a brilliant game, but it's been slightly superseded, I think, by one game that I'll be talking about a little bit later. Oh my gosh, I need to start finding more space for these. And last word, I love this because, it's playable with a few rule modifications by someone who cannot see. So I used to have a friend, rest in peace, Cherry, wonderful person, and with Cherry, we basically used to We used to play it so many times, and this was a game that we could play, and it was simple enough. But then I thought, you know what? I don't want to nominate this game purely because it was only with house rules that became a possibility. So, yeah, only with house rules was I actually able to play it with Cherry. But I just want to still give a shout out to Last Word. Anyway, that is the end of my almost made it. And now we're about 23 minutes in, and I am now going to chat about 10 games I love and why I love them. I want to mention, firstly, for the purposes of this episode, I limited myself to games I had no part in the creation of. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm not biased about any of these things because, you know, it's a small industry and for sure you start to know other people who work on certain things. But I am going to say that, oh my God, I just realized that I didn't pick up Batik because it was like slightly too far away. Oh man, Batik. Oh well, Batik is almost made it. Anyway, so but yeah, also I didn't want to pick things that are not available yet. So there's like an amazing time travel war game that I absolutely adore. It's unlike anything I've ever played. It's the only proper time travel board game, in my opinion. I know there's other board games that claimed are about time travel, but they don't feel like they're about time travel to me. Anyway, so I wanted to have games that are actually published. You could buy them even if it's not still in production. You can go off and buy them, hopefully. And B, I did not make them. So that is what we're talking about today. And yeah, I don't feel like Anachrony is a proper time travel game to me. I agree with the people that say, yeah, this whole you borrow from the future, you've got to pay it back. It could be mobsters. Yeah. So let me go to number 10. Oh, these aren't meant to be in an order, but if I've got to start numbering them, then I'm going to move them around slightly, make some last minute adjustments. And I'm going to go number 10 is The Mind. So to give a quick overview of The Mind, for those who don't already know it, everyone has a bunch of cards. Your cards could have any number on it from 1 to 100. There's exactly one version of each card. Everyone has to put their cards down in sequential order, in ascending order, I should say, going from the lowest to the highest. And you're not allowed to talk. You're not allowed to show your cards to other people. And it's a game all about waiting, all about pondering, okay, when is that other person going to put down their card? Like, if you've got to 1, obviously you put it down straight away, instantly. Otherwise, someone might sneak in with a 2 before you. If you've got a 2, well, they want to put it down almost straight away, but not quite. Someone might need to sneak in a 1. But if you've got to 10 and no one else, when do you believe that a 10 is actually the lowest number? It's all about getting to know your fellow players, getting to know what their timing is like. And I believe that The Mind, the reasons that I love it. Okay, let's go into the reasons why I love it. Firstly, it's like nothing else out there. I mean, it's a game all about the waiting. How mind-blowing is this? Wolfgang Warsch, you are a genius. And yeah, the other reason that I love it is it brings the focus to the players. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes you've got a game like Corridor. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying Corridor is a bad game. It's like, you know, it's definitely in my top 20, I think. Like, Corridor is a really, really good game. But you look at the board, but like Mind, you're looking at the players. You're like, what's going on with them? What's going on with them? What's going on? And then you've got like the little nunchucks where you shurikens, throwing stars, where everyone's got to raise a fist. And that's the kind of, you know, you've got to be on the same wavelength. And this is a beautiful game. And I think it's a work of genius and it's brilliant. So yeah, that's number 10. Yep. The 10 is the lowest number any time someone tells me you're a perfect 10. Hello, Prey. I'm just talking about my top 10 games. And this is, I said at the start, this is only my top 10 for today. So yeah. that's that. Yeah, you could buy other games. You could play the mind with other components. You could play the mind with the game. You could easily play it with other things, but that's not the point. It's about the game is not just a set of components, which is why I didn't put Balsac here, because Bandu, Balsac, brilliant components. I'm not as impressed with the rules, if I'm being honest. It's all about the rules. And so, yes, the mind. That is number 10. Number 9. And before I go into number 9, I want to talk about another game that I used to adore, which is Jungle Speed. Here's like, this one's the new version. This one's like the old version with the expansion. This is like all the cards, you can tell. Jungle Speed is a wonderful game by Tom Verschaw and Yako. Tom and Yako, anyway. Tom's a lovely person. And I mentioned Tom because for me, this game by the same artist has superseded Jungle Speed. Now, both of these games are about noticing when there's a match, but in Jungle Speed, you're grabbing the totem, and only the people who've got the match are involved. In this one, you've got to put your fingers on the thing. There's less chance of an injury. And oh my God, there's so much art. And also, specifically, I want to talk about the... So this kind of breaks my rule about things that are easily available. The basic version of Twinits is still really good, but this is the Can edition. There is a very similar edition that's the board game edition, like it's available on Board Game Geek. And if you take that off, you can basically see, like, I've got a secret message from Tom there. Like, it's not that secret, I'm willing to show it. And like all of these cards are based on aspects of board games. Like talking about Six Nymphs, I think someone mentioned it previously. And, you know, you can see lots of references. And I just love the amount of love that went into this. This is like a love letter to board gaming. Honestly, like if I could, I mean, basically going through this and saying, oh, do you know what this game? Do you know what this game is? It's almost like a game in itself. Like you've got Agricola here. You've got, I don't know that one. But yeah, and so you're just kind of putting all these tiles, all these little cards into the middle of the table until you've got an ever-increasing cacophony of shapes and colors. Like, well, not that many colors. It is actually quite a limited palette, which makes it actually look really good. And then you've got this ever-increase. And the other thing is, so right now, you're seeing all of them two at a time, but when you play it, you flip them over. So you wouldn't see the pairs together necessarily. And the fact that things are double-sided, so if two people put their finger on things, so when there's a match, let's say you saw both of these, you'd have to go, okay, put one finger here and the other finger here. And now, because I've got my two fingers down, I score that. What I actually like about this game also is that it's got a team mode. The team mode is brilliant, where one person has to put their finger on this one, then you'd be, come on, Alan, come on, Alan, come on, Alan, put your finger on that one. Can't you see? Put your finger on this one. Or maybe you're trying to send secret signals. Hey, Alan. And then, but it's about, I think that this game is so much nicer than Jungle Speed, even if purely just because of the presence of the team mode. It makes it so much approachable. It means that one person isn't going to just run away with the game all themselves. Twinit, even the standard version doesn't have all the board game references, but this is a superb game. So good. Let's me catch up. Yep. Javier agrees. Twinits killed Jungle Speed. And yep, for sure, some people are going to be better than it. If you've got people to play with, I mean, that's what it all comes down to. Do you have people to play with? Because I might really like the idea of playing Demaker, but if I don't have people around me who want to play Demaker, then maybe I don't get it. But if you've got people who you think will enjoy it, then absolutely recommended. That's my number 9. Yeah. And hello, Jeroen. It's lovely to see you. Anyway, back to my top games. Oof. Number 8. Number 8 is a game that I've talked about before. So I've talked about photosynthesis, I believe, for about an hour on this show. Like, go back on the YouTube and check for the... I've already talked about it quite a bit, but basically you've got these lovely trees, you place them around, you're blocking other people's light. I mean, it is a very cutthroat game. You're getting in each other's way. As you gather light, then you use those lights as your economy to then grow new saplings, to grow your trees, and to spread yourself. It's a vicious, vicious game about getting in each other's ways. Photosynthesis. Yeah, this is an amazing game. Now, I will preface this by saying, yes, there is no catch-up mechanism. And so I was really deliberating, should I have this one or should I have Corridor, which in theory you could give one person fewer pieces in Corridor. But Photosynthesis, oh my God, I just love the theme so much. And I love these little pieces with artwork by Sabrina Miramon. And I've not, and this is by Halma Chach. Sorry, I've not said all the designers. That's a bit remiss of me. Twinets was not just by Tom, but also by Natalie Saunier and Remy Saunier. Basically, they were inspired by a poster by that Tom Forshaw puts into toilets. True story. Anyway, so back to Photosynthesis. Published by Blue Orange Games. Great production. It's the reason I love it is that it is a perfect information strategic game, but yet, oh my gosh, everything just flows naturally. It's not like Hive where you've, oh, okay, that's the spider moves exactly free. Okay, that's the thing that I've got to remember. Okay, the beetle moves on top. Okay, that kind of makes sense. Okay, the mosquito. Okay, that kind of makes sense. Okay, the ladybird. Oh my God, what is this even doing? And, or like you've got this, it kind of feels like a world. It feels like you're a tree. You've got to take a bit of time. You've got to plan ahead as the sun revolves around you. And it's all about gathering that light. It's all about soaking up the energy and building up yourself. And it's got a good bit of engine building, which, you know, you don't really get engine building in games of perfect information. You get loads of engine building games where like there's cards coming out and there's randomness, but engine building with this kind of, this is a game that it's almost like with 2 players, there's 0 luck, and it's playable with 3 or 4, in which case there's a little bit of politics. I just think that the theme is wonderful, the art is wonderful, the mechanics make sense, there's so much to discover, there's multiple strategies to uncover. Photosynthesis, oh my God, I just adore Photosynthesis. And so, let's see. Oh, I'm sorry that you've not played it yet. I hope that you get a chance. It's not really one that you can solitaire, but if 2 players, it's absolutely brilliant. Yep, that is totally true. Oh yeah, and pray use those trees in their building picture for the scavenger hunt. It is indeed a beautiful game. I have no idea what is... Oh, Pray's only played it twice. Like, hopefully gets a chance to play it a bit more. It does have a bit of a runaway leader issue. There is no doubting that. I think that this is something that, like, look, this is the one issue with the game. I'm not going to say that this game is perfect. this game does have a positive feedback loop. Any engine building game, any engine builder does have a positive feedback loop. The better you're doing, the more economy will be coming in. And as you get your trees positioned well, as you get bigger trees, you'll be getting more economy. That's just the nature of it. But, you know, I think the thing that separates this from other engine builders, like it might be that the thing that I love, but that made Xate, for example, not love it, is that it is like unforgiving. You just if you are doing badly, there's no one to blame but yourself, and it's just like, okay, yeah, sure, there's no surprises, there's no hidden information of it. Yeah, if you don't like perfect information games, that's fine, but I still adore photosynthesis. That's the one issue. Okay, apparently that's not accurate at all. Okay, sorry about that. I'm going to stop hypothesizing. Okay. Anyway, we can carry on chatting, but I am going to move on to number 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 7. Tiefe Taschen. So Tiefe Taschen, I will admit, again, every game has issues. Like this one is very political. It's yeah, and also the box cover, it's a little bit loose, which is why I've permanently got a thing around it. It's a very mean game. This is kind of like Junta, playable in half an hour. If Junta takes 2 hours, this is like the distillation of that. It says on the back of the box, 20 to 50 minutes. And you might be thinking, whoa, that's a big spread. 20 to 50? What are you on about? But this is a game that's all about the table talk. So let me tell you about Tiefe Taschen. Oh my gosh. So, most importantly, you've got money. It's all about corrupt politicians wanting to get money. And let's say you were Mrs. White. Each turn, you've got 4 possible things that you can do. Either you can say, yes, I like the split of money that the leader decided. I am going to agree to this. Let's split the money the way you say, and let's do this. So the leader kind of says, okay, this is the way the money is going to be split. Everyone plays a card, then everyone reveals simultaneously. Second thing you can do is, oh wait, I think there's 5 things. I think I'm missing one. Second thing you can do is you can say, no, not only do I not like the way this money is being distributed, but I want to vote them out of power. And if there's fewer greens than reds, then the person goes out of power, and then the person to the right who played the red card becomes the new leader. This one is like a little thing that allows you to just steal from the bank. Just like a little bit of a top-up, just a little bit. Then the final, oh, here we go, the last 2 cards. One is, this is where the spy and the espionage gets into it. So you can put your little piece in front of someone and say, hey, I might be stealing from you. And if you put this in, then you're stealing from them. But if you try to steal from them and they've got this counter, then instead of you stealing from them, they steal from you. And there's like all the bribes, because you can say, hey, if you pay, if you do yes, or if you do no, or if you do anything but yes, or if you do anything but no, then I will give you this amount of money, and that amount of money could be secret just between the 2 of you. It's all about that negotiation. It's all about saying, hey, come on, like there's 6 of us in this game. Only 3 of us need to be happy here. So I'm going to keep you 2 happy. How do you feel about that? And those 3, yeah, they can go. This is a supreme cutthroat game. So, yeah, this is one of Chris's favorites. Prey says they've never heard of Tiefe Taschen. Tiefe Taschen was redone as Good Critters, by Tom Vassal's publication thing. I think that Good Critters is an equally good game. Arguably, there's like a couple of modifications that make it quite nice. But I just really prefer the theme of corrupt politicians. Anyway, whether it's Tiefe Taschen or whether it's Good Critters, either of them would be my number 7. Xates says they got it from a close friend of the designer. Looks boring. This is number 7. Oh, good night, Pray. Hope you have a good night's sleep. And so, yeah, obviously, all of these. So, number 5 is, yeah, let's go with this one. One Night Ultimate Werewolf Daybreak, or, oh my gosh, just Loup Garou pour une nuit, Epic Battle. And I've not actually played that one. This is one that I've played a lot of times. I got One Night Ultimate Werewolf and One Night Ultimate Werewolf Daybreak when it was the Daybreak Kickstarter campaign. I had a lot of fun. I will say that for me, there's definitely a lot of roles in the Daybreak edition that make this game shine. I don't think on its own it would be that lovely a game. Although, having said that, to villagers, if you're teaching it to complete newbies, like people who don't play board games at all, it's a lovely game. And I love the fact that it can go so high. I mean, at 3 players, you need to have people who are going to be really into it and really, working out what's going on. At 10 players, it becomes a lot more chaotic. There's obviously going to be a lot more discussion. By the way, I think that this is... I couldn't find this on Board Game Geek, but this is a combination of Werewolf, Daybreak, and the Vampire one. And so I got this because there were a few new rules to me. I didn't have the Vampire one. Also, I like the idea of it being in French and potentially learning a bit of French. But I bought this in February, just at the end of February. And then, yeah, lockdown happened. So I've not played this yet. But I have played this one a lot. And you can play with Daybreak together. Like, if you've got Doppelganger and mixed into it, you can make something complex enough that there's a complex enough puzzle for even 3 players to have a go of. That it's a really nice social deduction game. If there's 10 of you, I've played it when we've been in the pub and we've been like, this is something we are playing, and then people come over and say, hey, if you want to join in, and like I'll explain all the rules, and people who've never played board games before are able to join in, because especially with all the villagers, like, it's one tricky thing. Okay, what is even this game all about? So what this game is all about, basically, everyone gets a secret roll. Daybreak. So your secret role might be Doppelganger or Drunk. I don't like Drunk's not my favorite one. Oh, Mystic Wolf, that's a good one. Or Alpha Wolf turns other people into wolves. Or Tanner wants to die. Kind of, you could imagine there's 2 different teams. There's a team of humans, and then there's a team of wolves. The humans have discovered, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of wolves in here, and they want to kill a wolf. And if they kill the wolf, then that will tip the balance. All the wolves are like, we want to survive. And the wolf doesn't die, then the wolves win. So everyone gets their secret role. Then there's a night phase where everyone does secret things. So there's a seer who looks at some of the cards in the middle that are not in use. Because if you've got a 3-player game, you play with 6 roles, so 3 of them aren't used. If you play with 10 people, you've got 13 roles, so 3 of them aren't used. There's always 3 in the middle. And then seer will be looking at either 1 other person's or 2 in the middle. There's the masons, and if both masons are in the game, then they'll know each other. So they'll be like, okay, we are able to know each other, our masons for sure, and that's a little bit of information. A robber is where you get into the chaos of the game. This is the really interesting part, where not only do you see what you are at the start, but that might change. So even if you think you're a human, you might turn into a werewolf. Or if you think you're a werewolf, you might be cured, and then you might be a drunk, or you might be a seer, which is a bit more thematically weird. But there you go, it kind of works. Anyway, so the robber takes someone else's thing and gives them the robber. This is all during the night phase when people's eyes are closed. The werewolves get to see each other. Troublemaker is the other critical role where you swap two other people's things. And so after all this chaos of the night that people have been swapping around things while people's eyes are closed, then you have about 5 minutes of discussion, and then at the end of the discussion everyone's like, okay, who do you want to kill? And thematically, obviously, everyone goes 1, 2, 3, and then you point at someone. The person with the most votes is dead. If that was a tanner, then the tanner wins because they wanted to die, because this is like a really dark game where they're, yeah, it's like, but then Tanner, I think mechanically it works because the Tanner wants to pretend to be a werewolf, and so that brings confusion into people's minds where they're thinking, okay, is this person actually a werewolf who's just bad at pretending that they're not a werewolf, or are they a Tanner who wants to die? And is there being a werewolf really obviously? And so mechanically, there's a lot of rules in this system. Or if you're in France, this is definitely the one to buy. Just based on what I saw in the game, like there's all the best bits of. It's like all the highlights. This is like a best of album. I mean, yeah, and really looking forward to playing this when it says it's for 3 players. I would again say that to have the real social deduction experience, you want to have 5 players or more. The more players you have, the more chaos and the more talking. The fewer players you are, the more puzzle solving it is, if that makes sense. Anyway, that is a great game, in my opinion. So One Night's Ultimate is one of those on my list to play. I only vaguely understand how it works from watching people play. Should read the rules. Yeah. Or maybe that time when we are potentially coming. One Night's Ultimate is one of the games I've played the most. Love the puzzle aspect mixed with a bit of bluffing. But as I have slowly discovered, deduction is my favourite game mechanism. Javier used to like One Night's Ultimate Werewolf and played it a lot, but Werewords replaced it for Javier. And Alan Alton deduced that deduction was Alex's favourite. There are some people who are just bad at it. I mean, the nice thing about One Night's Ultimate Werewolf is that you're not on your own. Well, depending on the player count, you're almost never on your own. And also, it's quite quick. And the thing I also like about it is there's no player elimination. Obviously, you've got Werewolf, you've got old school Mafia as it was invented, I don't know how many years ago. And, oh yeah, designer Ted Alsbach, Ted Alsbach and Akisi Okui. So Akisi Okui invented One Night's Werewolf, and Ted Alsbach added a lot of other roles. Ted Alsbach is a better developer and content creator, in my opinion, than inventor. And so, yeah. Oh, yeah, there's One Night's Ultimate superheroes, and there's Alien version. Yeah, there's all sorts of things. I think that we can all agree that there are some great social deduction games out there. But yeah, I just like the time limit. I like the fact that at the end of it, it's like, okay, this is what's happened. And then we have the discussion after it. At the end of the game, it's like, oh my God, that's what happened. And there's like that moment of the big reveal. Yeah, sure, you have that a little bit at the end of Spyfall where it's, oh, where were we? Oh my God, I'd never have guessed that. But yeah, for my money, like the big reveal in One Night's Ultimate Werewolf is like just, yeah. And you can retheme it for sure if you want. Sorry about this. Anyway. Next on my list is Doodles. I think this is number 1, 2, 3, 5. Number 5 is Doodles. Doodles is a really lovely game. Now, I would have put this higher, except that I think that the getting people to guess your bits might be slightly undervalued. But this is another game I've talked about on the show for quite a bit. So just to quickly recap, this is by Klaus Teuber, best known for Settlers of Catan. Their first Spiel des Jahres winner was Barbarossa, which was an early version of this. This is much better than Barbarossa, but didn't get the same acclaim. Maybe because times had moved on a little bit, maybe because people felt, oh, that's too similar to Barbarossa. But for me, like Barbarossa, I've read the reviews, I've watched videos, I just wouldn't be up for playing this. This simplifies it. So you've got bits of plasticine. You make 3 things. You want people to guess what your things are. It's like Pictionary, but with clay. But the trick is, you don't want people to guess it immediately. You want people to guess it, but not too quickly. So if people are allowed to make as many guesses as they want, let me do this. So look at this little corner of the board. You would put your sculpture here and your little marker here, and then if people get it straight away, then you get 0 points. When someone has asked a yes/no question about it, then we've got tell me one of the letters in it. Then I get another yes/no question. Then one of the letters, yes/no question, one of the letters, and then finally whatever you want. And so other people are asking things about it. And the more things that they have to ask about, if they have to ask a few things, then you start getting more points, 0, 1, 2, 3, and then you get fewer points again. I mean, we've played this quite a few times, myself, McCall, Chris, and like played it a few times without them. I mean, part of that is, yeah, I just love McCall and Chris, and they're lovely people, and it's good playing with them, but also you can tell the difference between a good game and a bad game. I mean, even if you love the people that you're playing with, there's many times where we're like, yeah, Nicole will say, yeah, I don't want to play that again. Or I'll be like, yeah, I'm sorry I brought this. This was just not a good experience. But, this is one that we've played multiple times in one night. We've just played it a few times. I played it with Steve. I used to play it when I had people over to the house, and nearly all the time, people, oh, yeah, let's play that again. That was really good fun. Because if you don't feel comfortable about your sculpting, well, it's fine, because your sculpture does not need to be good. Your sculpture can be quite bad. If it's a spoon and it actually looks like a spoon, you're going to lose, because people will guess that right away. You want your spoon to be slightly awkward and wonky. And if you've already got the natural inability to do a spoon, then you're off to a good start. Now, I explained how the sculptor gets points, but the way the guesser gets points, everyone starts off here, and if you get a correct guess, you're allowed to make guesses literally any time you want. Incorrect guesses take you a space back. Correct guesses take you this many spaces forwards. And so if you get correct, like if you're right at the back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you move 5 forwards. And so this is a little bit of a catch-up mechanism. So as you're right at the front, well, you've got a lot to potentially lose. One wrong answer and you'll go 4 spaces back. Oh my God. But yeah, still, and it's got this joyful thing where you chuck in cubes, which is just fun. I mean, with 3 players, this doesn't really actually become a thing, but when you've got 4 or more players, it's like, oh my God, I know what it is. And then you chuck your cube into here, and it's whoever chucks their cube in first, it kind of comes down the slide, and then that person gets to guess first, and it adds a tiny little bit of ridiculous toyetic quality to, and it is actually functional, so I quite like that. Anyway, Doodles, brilliant game. I would recommend this to everyone. And Chris says Doodles is another one of their personal top 3. Yeah, sometimes the game can be better if you're playing with someone who loves it. But, I think, and for sure, I'm not going to even dignify your next thing with a response. Lovely to see you, Alex. Have a good day. And yep. Now on to my number 4. What is my number 4? My number 4 is QE. QE is another game that I've spent an hour talking about. I mean, you can kind of see a pattern. I tend to talk more about games that I really love. So QE, I specifically went for the new version of QE. I could have brought the old version of QE, and I've got an old version for sale, by the way, if anyone wants one. This is by Gavin Birnbaum, friend, and this has been republished by Board Game Tables, which is a really weird name for a publisher, but you know, tables are clearly their main thing. It's apparently 30 minutes. Let's see, it's marginally more than that. This is a work of genius. Oh my gosh. QE. So it's all about these checks. It's all about, it's an auction game where you are allowed to bid any number you want. I should say any whole number. You're not allowed to go into fractions. I couldn't start saying, okay, 1.2653. But you might start off the game where someone's bidding, okay, I'll bid 20 for this, and you bid, say you bid 50. And then maybe the next round, you're bidding thousands. And maybe by the final round, you're going to scientific notation where you're writing the times 10 to the what? And so it's like, okay, 3 times 10 to the 30. That's how many, I don't know what you'd even call that in English. Nonillion? Decillion? Anyway, so it works because this is a game about spreading information. It's about the careful information spread of how much are other people bidding and trying to not be the person who bids the most, because the person who bids the most is automatically loses. Gavin Birnbaum didn't copy this from Reiner Knizia's High Society, although High Society is notable for being the, to my mind, as far as I know, the first game that used this mechanism of, hey, everyone's allowed to bid amounts, crazy amounts, but the person who bids the most at the end of the game loses. Now, Gavin Birnbaum's game, it takes that to its most ridiculous. This takes it as far as it could possibly go because it is all based on whiteboards. You can write down literally anything. I just can't get over this. You could go into thousands, you could go into billions, you could go into trillions or quadrillions or quintillions or decillions or hundecillions or whatever you want to call them. And there's a little bit of set collection that you need to get into. So if you're a certain country, you want to get things of your country. If you're collecting certain resources, you want to get more of that. There's, if I look at the score sheets, there's also a diversification thing. And if there's 5 of you, you get to peek at one thing once during the game. Every round, people take turns to be the auctioneer. And so what you write is kept secret between you and the auctioneer unless you're the winner. So you might, as the auctioneer, you get the information to know not just, okay, what was the winning bid, but also where is everyone else in the game? Where's everyone else's head at? And so are you going to try to push people's prices up? Are you going to try to encourage people to go up? Because it's not just about the table talk. It's about what you reveal. It's about what you show off. It's about seeing other people become increasingly desperate to win a thing. Now, this is a game like Tiefe Taschen. I don't know if I'd want to play it twice in a row, although this is a game I'd more likely be willing to play twice in a row straight away. But, you know, it's one of those games where it feels like, oh my God, that was so intense. Now let's move on to something else. But this is a game I would be happy to play it basically any time with anyone. Arguably, this should be higher than my number 2. But QE, it's a brilliant game. QE by Gavin Birnbaum. I love this. I adore this. I just can't get over. Genuinely, there is nothing like this. Nothing else like this on the market. Like the Mind, like yeah, like the next game that I'm going to talk about. But before we need to go about, sounds like another game I'd like and have never played. Adding to my watch list. For sure. Oh, I like what you did there. QE is very funny. Even my 12-year-old can play it. Yep. And you know, Gavin Birnbaum was definitely making a very political statement. I chatted to Gavin Birnbaum. I would love to have Gavin Birnbaum on the show, but yeah, they didn't feel comfortable coming on, which was a shame. Anyway, so let me move on to my number 3 game. Number 3 is a game that I have not talked about for hours before, but I have talked about on the show because I really love it. And it is called Perfect Match in Germany. So Wavelength, as it is more commonly known, is a game by... Oh, wow. Designers aren't even on here. A telepathic game, party game from... Oh, yeah, here we go. Wolfgang Warsch, Alex Haig, and Justin Vickers, with artwork by Vas and Hannibal. And it's product designed by Sarah Pavis. So, Wavelength. It is a game. Yes, this is definitely a game. I mean, people who say, oh, is this a game? What's you on about? And I want to talk specifically about, I would nominate the cooperative mode rather than the competitive, just because I think you get a lot more conversation going on there. This is the game that, for me, replaced Say Anything, which I hear Say Anything. So, in Say Anything has a bit more comedy to it. Say Anything was a game about, I mean, obviously completely different designers, but it's a game about getting to know people, getting to know what they think about things. And then in Wavelength, you've got a card that says useful versus useless. And so I would spin the wheel. Let's say I am the clue giver. Okay. I am going to give the clue of I'm going to say, oh, whoops, I didn't mean to move that. And this is where, you know, the game can slow down. As someone tries to think of something, it is a game where you want other people to be willing to kind of engage in the conversation, right? While one person thinks, okay, what one word, one concept, I've got to get you to think of where exactly the target is on this scale of useless to useful. Now, once I've given you this information, you're going to have to think about what I think of it. Okay, I've got it, okay. I'm going to say, wait, let me check again. Okay, so I'm going to say fancy shaped boxes, by which I mean like the boxes that are like that shape, or like trapezoid, you know, things like that. Non-standard boxes. Non-standard boxes. Are they useful or are they useless? So in the chat, like, feel free to let me know what you think. We can play it right now. Is it useful or is it useless? 10 p.m. So that's 12. So that's 9, 10. So Alan's saying it's about there. Chris says it would be 50-50, non-standard, 6/8 of the way towards useless. So you've got to come to some decision. So do you want it more So this is the useless side. This is the useful side. So Rowan says useful 30. I don't know what. So you're wanting it more useful? Yavia says a bit more on the useless end. Okay, Chris says that's perfect. Okay, are you happy enough with this? Okay, are you happy? So non-standard boxes. Okay, I'm just going to let it. Obviously, it's not quite as easy without, having like labels, which I know some people have done when they're playing online. So let's say we were opening it up at this point, and then we'd say, oh, you've just managed to get 2 points. So I'm thinking that like non-standard boxes, I just find them really annoying and actually not just useless sometimes, but they get in the way. But they have some use. I mean, if you really need a non-standard box, but like most non-standard boxes, they're just like annoying. And so yeah, so this is a lovely game to my mind because it's all about that conversation. It's all about how well do you know these people? How well do you know what these people think of things? And how useless does Bez, because you're basing me on you're basing it on what I would think, and I'm basing my thing on trying to say something to you. Yeah. I mean, let me close this up. That's how you play the game, okay? I think everyone's got the idea. So can we play this virtually? Yes, we just did. Wavelength is a solid choice for lockdown gaming. Yes, if you kind of divide it, as Xate said. And yeah, I think that was. If I was to accidentally mark the edge of the wheel with a Sharpie, would that ruin the game? Yes, it would, absolutely. If you did it on the wheel, yes, it would, because if you marked it on the wheel, then you would know where it is, and if you remember that, that's a pretty bad thing. But if you mark it here, like on the edge of the blue thing, then that's not an issue. So what I would personally do would be to kind of, I don't know, use masking tape around here. That's what I would do. I mean, there's so many cards here. There's some really interesting scales that you've got role model, bad influence, stupid, brilliant, good habits, bad habits. You've got like all sorts of things. And then there's like an entire pack that I've been playing this game so much since I got it in January, and there's like this entire Kickstarter thing which I got, which is a little bit more niche, but we might open it at some point once we've been through like these a few times. Underrated game, overrated game, dictatorship, democracy. So it can get into really political things, and you can make it sexual depending on who you're with. You can make it completely innocent and playful depending on who you're with. This is a game that works with any crowd. This is a game that I would recommend to basically anyone. I feel like even if you're a strategic gamer, it's nice to sometimes play. Oof. Maybe the box is a little bit too tight if I'm going to make any like complaints about it, but that's pretty curmudgeonly. Yeah. It's a pretty darn awesome game. And yeah, let's move to my number 2. Now, I don't think these final things are going to come as any surprise, and everyone's going to know my number 1. So this is another game that I've spent about an hour or so chatting about on one of my previous videos. Warning, there are a lot of spoilers in that video. I think I did like about 10 minutes or 20 minutes without spoilers before I got really into all the spoilers. So if you want to know a little bit more about it without spoilers, then you can. But look, basically, this it's arguable whether this should be up here, because this is the one game out of all of these which I'm not going to play this copy again. I literally cannot, because it is. And so a lot of people say, oh, how can it be the number one game on Board Game Geek, back when this was like the number one game on Board Game Geek? And to that I say, well, because games are not just about, this limited thing of we are going to, this is the map, this is what it gets. Oh, I forgot this was in here. That's a little, oh, cool. Oh, I forgot those were in here. Oh, awesome. Man, I should, oh yeah, the extra things came in here because of me putting, yeah. Anyway, I can't show you all the contents of this, otherwise it would be technically spoilers. But yeah, we will tell you that this is how we performed. We managed to win a whole bunch, which was increasingly exciting, but then we lost. And then we won, and then we lost, and then we won at the end. And then at the end, you get some score, and I think we were like third from the bottom, something like that. Along the way, you get snippet. Look, do you know Pandemic? If you don't know Pandemic, Pandemic is a cooperative game about trying to stop a pandemic. And what I said back in the day is that Pandemic isn't really just a game about a pandemic. Pandemic is a game about people who can do different things coming together and working together. It's about humanity triumphing, about coming against adversity, about working together. And then Pandemic Legacy, this was, I believe, maybe the third or fourth Legacy game out there. I mean, there's Risk Legacy being the first. I believe we didn't playtest this. That's all Legacies being like among the second, and this might have been the third. I mean, now there's obviously so many, but there's like this entire deck, and you will notice quite future. Stop! Do not play. Oh, spoilers. Oh no, that's not a spoiler. Stop! And then before you open certain boxes, you get new cards. Sometimes you get new characters. Sometimes you get like, it says, oh my god, this thing's happened. Oh my god, this thing's happened to the virus. Oh my god, this thing's happened to X. And it's like a B movie. Look, it's not going to rock your world with what an amazing story it was, and it's better than anything in film or books or games before or since. But what it is it's a really solid story that you go along. Yes, there's a lot of it that's on rails, but you're all working together. And if you've got a good group, then you're all negotiating. You're all saying, how can we get out of this? Every game, there's new information. Everyone's, just as you think, oh my, okay, we've gotten this under control. Oh my God, wait a minute. There's this whole new thing. Oh my God, what are we going to do about this? And then you kind of scramble together to try and work out what to do. Now, there's a couple of warnings about this game. Firstly, yeah, you can only play this a bunch of times. You can play this like 12 times. You've got to have a committed group. But if you've got a committed group, well, it is I wanted to talk about the environmental impact of legacy games back when I did my review of this, and my analysis was, you know what, sometimes a game is worth, the environmental impact. Sometimes you've got to think to yourself, is this worth it? And for me, yes, this was worth it. It was like one of the most bringing together things that I've ever experienced. It was like one of the people that was in our group wasn't like they were an acquaintance before, I would have said, and afterwards now I would say like they're a friend. And it changes relationships. It brings people together. And if you're able to do that negotiation, if you're able to say, yeah, let's listen to you, let's listen to everyone at the table, I would say that how long does it say a game is? Like about an hour or something. But 60 minutes. But we spent like a good 2 hours or so over single games. Like We spent way more than 2 hours over some of the games. Now, we've not played much of Pandemic Legacy Season 2. We've only played the prologue of that. We've obviously not played Season 0 at all, which I found out was actually the last ever one, which I was kind of disappointed about because I remember them definitely talking about Season 3 and that scene. Anyway, so this, all I can say is I'm not comparing it to the other ones, but this is just a really solid story. It brought us together. And I believe that I would want to play this again. If I wouldn't want to play it with people who already knew what was happening, but if, let's say I was in South Korea, let's pretend, and then let's say there were some people and were like, hey, we really love board games. Hey, we've heard about this Pandemic Legacy. Would you like to play that with us? I would be like, yes, 100%. Now, I'm going to tell you I've played it before, and so there are some spoilers, but like I'm not going to like tell you about everything that's coming up. Well, so I'll let you discover that, but being there for that moment, going through that narrative again, because yes, this and escape room games totally changed what the notion of what games are and can be. Like Unlock, Exit, like the time stories, like all these games that you're basically playing, and then eventually it's like, okay, I've done that, and then you kind of go through it. And this is even more like legacy games, like Risk. It's like you actually rip up things. What's ripped up? Yeah, here is something that's ripped up. It's literally ripped up. You see, it's ripped up. And now it's like you've got pieces, and some of these pieces I don't want to show because it's kind of spoilerific, but if you really thought about it, you can get a sense of what's coming on. And again, it is kind of B-movie stuff. But oh my gosh, if you get into it, if you like have a group that's committed to it, this can facilitate, like, this is possibly like, if I could have like a number one for being able to facilitate a good gaming experience as a recommendation, this would be my number one. It's clearly not my number one. Like, this is still my number two, but this is so good. Let's see what people have said. Oh yeah, we had some comments about Wavelength. Javier saying that Wavelength is great for breaking the ice on gaming meetups, and yeah. And then back to Pandemic Season 1. Jeroen's played it 2 times. Really great. Yeah, that's fine. If co-op isn't your style, you're not going to get it. And yeah, it's super long as well, because you do have to commit to about 30 hours or so of gameplay. Obviously over multiple sessions, but you have to commit to the long haul. And yeah. Andrew says they know people who are less into co-op who enjoyed it because of the legacy experience, and by most accounts, it's the best example of that. But yeah, it's a big commitment and hence risk if you don't like co-ops. I will say that if you've, we played it with 5, and so 2 people were controlling 1 character. That's where the name Crawl and my risk came from, and so there were kind of, I was controlling 1 character. Anyway, so yeah, like with most of these games, yes, you could have 2 people control 1 character. It just means that you've got to spend potentially more time making sure that everyone's heard. And that way, if you've got 5 people, if someone drops out, then it's no issue. Frankly, even if you had 4 people and one of them dropped out, as long as they're like, okay, you can still carry on, it wouldn't be the worst deal, because I think that 3 players, it would still be a really solid game. 2 players, I've heard that it's still a really solid game. I've heard that 2 players. The only disadvantage is that as you go down in the player count, You get to use less of the characters, and you get to use fewer of the relationships. And I think that having that table talk out there is such a big thing that I would even personally advocate going above the 4-player ostensible maximum. I would say that, yeah, go to 5 and like just have 2 people are kind of maybe chipping in a bit less. And yeah, if you don't like Legacy, then that's fine. And yeah. So yeah, if you want to guess my number 1, then go ahead and guess. That's totally fine. I'm not against anyone guessing. It's Andrew January accidentally had a stray spoiler component from Pandemic Legacy Season 1 in one prototype, and someone loudly proclaimed, "That's from Pandemic Legacy!" And someone else said, "Oh, we haven't gotten that far yet. That sounds like a sad story." I think that the elder people shouldn't be saying that's from Pandemic Legacy. So, yeah. That is what So whilst other people are apparently now guessing my number 1 game, yeah, to talk a little bit more about why I think Pandemic Legacy was better than Risk Legacy, and why I have zero desire to play Betrayal at the House of the Hill and Charter. I've got some desire to play every game. That's slang. You know, I've got some desire to play every game. But come on, Charterstone, like there's not much story there from what I hear. And like this is a thing, isn't it? Like the notion of when you read a book, like unreusable content is a weird thing. And if you read a book, if you really enjoy The Little Prince, you're going to read it multiple times. If you really like Terry Pratchett, you might read it later on in your life. And you won't have to buy it again. I mean, if you watch certain films, you watch them again, and sure, there's spoilers. If you watch, what's that film with, people saying, "Oh, I'm Kaiser Soze." You know, Kaiser Soze, what's that film? Don't say who's Kaiser Soze, but say the film. It's not, it's like, anyway, like that film where you then go back to the start and like, oh, wow, now I kind of see things in a little different manner. Like, oh, Usual Suspects. Thank you, Alan. Yeah, Usual Suspects. I think it says pluralized, but yeah. And maybe and so sure, if you don't reread books or rewatch a film, then maybe it's no different. But yeah, do I think that Season 2 has a chance of topping Season 1 for me? Sure, it's got a chance. I have not heard enough about it. I've heard that it's not as good, so my expectations are low. But that's the first. Oh my gosh, yeah, I was talking on Monday about 3 things I learned that one night, and I couldn't remember one of them. It's about hopes and expectations. So yeah, hopes and expectations. And yeah, everyone on YouTube also said Usual Suspects straight away. So yeah, you probably won't have the same experience in the same game, but you won't have the same experience rewatching The Usual Suspects. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, sure, whatever. Like with extra information, you have a different experience, and legacy games, they have a lot of pre-generated content because you've got story coming in 2 ways, right? You've got story coming in via pre-written cards, whether that's flavor text or Games Workshop books or Magic the Gathering books, or stuff that comes through. Maybe it's this is like a little bit of the world, and then you get to see it on this card. Oh, this is like, okay, this represents this thing. And then you've got campaign games that follow a similar trajectory. And then you've got the story of during the game what happens. Like Tiefe Taschen, do you remember that time, Chris, when you were completely chaotic? Well, there was more than one time, but do you remember that one time when, and at the end, you've got this story that you facilitated the story, you created the story, and wow. Chris remembers being chaotic. Yep, I thought you would. And so with Legacy, there's more, let's say there's more pre-written content compared to content that you create yourselves. And I think that that is both a downfall and a positive for the genre. A downfall in that, hey, if I play season 1 again with a different group, we are going to go through the same basic notes. Yes, each different game might be slightly different. We might put X in a different position or Y in a different position, or we might not use character Z as much, because, and we certainly wouldn't get character Z's rule wrong, that we totally got one of the rules completely wrong, although I think that if I even mentioned the character, it would be a spoiler. But yeah, that is also a bad thing about Legacy games. If you get a rule wrong, then that's it. You can't really go back. Yeah, look, Legacy, it's guiding you. It can basically, it's like you've got this dungeon master, and Rob Davio has such a history of dungeon mastering, Dungeons and Dragons, and so I just think it's an amazing game. I mean, I thought people were going to guess what my number 1 was, but no one else has guessed it. Anyway, so going to my number 1, it is, I'm sure that's anyone. Oh, Alan had to go apparently. So my number 1 game is something that I've talked about, and I think I've even said that it's my favorite game on this very show. So like, if you've watched all my shows, then you know what my number 1 is. It is no surprise. Number 1 is, of course, Go. Also known as, like other things, but we're going to call it Go. This is my board. It's not the best board, but it is mine. This is a smaller one, and this is the bigger version. This is the full game. And let me actually, let's just bring this down so you can see all about Go. Oh my gosh, I love this game. So you've got black, you've got white. It's the traditional colors of the abstract strategy games. You start off playing pieces literally I would say literally wherever I want, but I am pedantic, so I wouldn't say that. I would say on any intersection I want, but also the intersection must be unoccupied. So let's say, and okay, I'm just going to, before we start, I need to tell you one of the big reasons that I love Go, because of the handicap system. Like, let's say I'm playing against Chris. Now, I'm not saying that Chris is bad at games, but what I am saying is that I've spent a lot of time playing Go, and Chris has not. So maybe on this board, Chris starts with 9 stones already on the board. Hopefully you can sort of see that. Yep, there, that works. And now white places wherever they want. Oh, you can't see that so well. Let me, oh yeah, okay. So if you ever, I'm just going, so if white, this is terrible play from both colors, but if you get completely surrounded, so let's say white were to go there, and then for some reason black continues going there. Now, this piece has been completely surrounded on every line. Think of it like a breathing space. It's like you need to be networking to a free space. You need to have space. This game's all about, whoa, you're in my space, man. Now I'm literally going to die. And it's like, whoa, This is totally uncool. And then, you get your piece taken, and then if you've got multiple pieces, let's say, obviously, I'm going slightly out of turn, but let's say it was like that. Now, this piece is still alive because it can breathe through its own color. And now, in order to surround that, black would need to go here, and then both of them would be taken off, this example. If there's a system like that, let's say black surrounded this piece, and then black went into the middle. Black still needs to surround on this side, so black could go on here, and then do that, and then suddenly, boom, all those whites would be taken off. But let's say, and this is where the game gets really interesting, let's say whites were able to divide into two holes, which you'd call eyes. And so here, black can't go here because then that's suicide, because black's already been surrounded. Black can't go here because it's suicide. So once you've got two eyes, you're essentially alive. If it was only one eye, then for the record, you check to see if you killed before you check to see if you are killed. And so black would go here, all the whites would be removed, and the blacks would stay. Now, as you've seen from the size of the board, there's this is an epic game. You can play this game on a 9x9 board, and it's a proper meaty think fest. It's a game that people could devote years and years to becoming better at. And then you get to 19x19, and this is a game that people have been studying for millennia. That I believe in Japan, like they used to say that if you're a samurai, like to kind of be a bit more, as well as, okay, obviously you need to understand how to wield weapons, but in order to be like a properly balanced human being, they said that you needed to know, I think it was, how to wield a paintbrush, how to play a musical instrument. The paintbrush was mainly for calligraphy. The musical instruments, I think, can't remember which one it was, and how to play Go. And those were meant to be the free skills for, yeah. And it's, oh my gosh, I just love this game. I love the fact that, unlike chess, this never ends in a stalemate. You will notice that even in my almost made it, Corridor, Battleship, these are games that they push themselves towards an end. You're placing things. Like, that was one of my main criticisms of Elementos. And frankly, that's one of my criticisms of chess. I think this whole, okay, if it's been 50 moves and no one's taken a thing, then it's a stalemate. That's ridiculous. Come on. Like, that's not exciting. What is exciting is you start off with, okay, you're playing around the board, you're getting a sense of where things are going, and then you're starting to fill it in, and then there's this inexorable movement towards everything being packed, and then you start to see, oh my gosh, this is where it's at. And then there's the story. You look down at the board, and there's this narrative, and it almost seems to tell you, this is what's happened during this one particular game. And then you can reach out through history, and it's like you're connecting with all the people from millennia ago. And yeah, if I could only play one game, yeah, I think it probably would be Go. I was kind of just pausing for a moment to think, would that be it? Yeah, like, especially, like, even if there's I don't know who on earth is being so vindictive to stop me from playing every other game. Like, what kind of horrible universe is this? But yeah, sure, I would be able to find players from Go across the universe. Like, the handicap system is beautiful. It allows people of different skill levels to play with each other. You can play with, yes, there are ways to play with more than two players, but normally what happens at a Go club is that the stronger player will play on multiple boards, and then the weaker players will. So maybe I will play two boards, and Chris and McCall would play on one. But, in this kind of weird universe where I'm only allowed to play one game ever, would everyone be okay playing that with me? Like, I don't know. I guess maybe like if they love me, hopefully, Chris. I mean, I don't know why I'm only allowed. This is a horrible thing to even ponder. Anyway, but it would definitely be Go. I mean, honestly, Go is like it's been around for so many millennia. And it's like it's not like one of those rubbish games like Senate, which people don't even know the rules of. And like when people think they know the rules of, like the rules that they talk about sound a bit rubbish. And it's like I don't want like I okay, sure. Sometimes you want a bit of randomness, so like you could say, okay, Senate, yep, it's got to roll all over the dice. Backgammon, yep, it's got the dice, and then you can add a doubling cube, and then it's truly skillful. But Go, you can change the size of the board, and it's still Go. You can like change the length of the game. You can go from like a relatively quick half-hour game, or you can play. You can agree to say, okay, we're going to play it at speed. You can play it online, where every move you get like 5 seconds to make that move. You can. This is a game that can fit into the space that you give it. If you just give it a few hours, give it like a few days, give it a few goes. um, but you don't need to study it for years and years. But if you were to study it for years and years, you would have so much, you would uncover so many depths. And oh my god, like AlphaGo, like if you watch that documentary where like the former world champion was like, oh my god, like there was this move that's how we realized, oh my god, a human would never have made this move, but this is actually a really good move. And working out, okay, at the start, where exactly do you place your first stone? And there's still arguments about that. And it's not like memorization, like chess, where okay, you've got to sure you might want to start studying up on particular patterns, but it's about those this pattern has evolved. Its pattern is here. Okay, I can see here it's about reading ahead. It's about getting a sense of things. It's about honestly, you could stare at a single board for years and years before you could have a good understanding of what the best move is. And so at some points, we need to cut our losses. And so in some ways, Go is a reminder that we need to be okay with that. Go is a reminder that nothing can be perfect. And there's something lovely and poetic about that. Go itself, the rules aren't even perfect, even within themselves. You've got, sure, at the end, the person who's got the most pieces on the board is probably going to win. You want to keep your pieces on the board. You want to surround more territory. But how exactly that's calculated, whether you've got Chinese style scoring or Japanese style scoring, or there's other variants that tend to be roughly the same, but they're not quite exactly the same if you look really carefully at the margins. But they're similar enough that, unless you are playing that one game in a million where something goes crazy. And even so, like, you've still got that one game in a billion where you've got to use the super call rule, which you might have had to agree with. Obviously, like, when in a tournament setting, you would agree the exact scoring rules, you would determine the exact call style. Super call basically means you can't return the board to a state that it was exactly. And so, yeah, that is it. So let's see. I'm always surprised by how few people know of Go's existence. Oh yeah. I wasn't reading the comments until just now, but yeah, absolutely. Go compared to, oh wait. So you're saying that I can still play every other game. Okay, let me look at, so this is a slightly different question. Okay, so yeah, yeah, I think I would still play Go, because all of the other games I could imagine there being better versions of. I could imagine there being like Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Javier says it's better. I mean, Wavelength is pretty darn awesome, but I mean, that's pretty irreplaceable. I mean, that's pretty magnificent. But I could imagine, like, I don't know, that what was it? It's on a scale of 1 to Tyrannosaurus Rex, like that might fit a similar niche to Wavelength. And QE is pretty irreplaceable. I mean, yeah, Doodles, all of these games are pretty darn awesome. But yeah, I think for me, Go is like definitely the one. And no, the L deck is not a game. The L deck is a game system. And so when I was talking about if I had to pick one game, I would not be allowed to pick any other L game. So no Wibble, no Categoric Hell, no Yogi, no Kitty Cataclysm. All I'm only allowed to pick one game. I'm not allowed to design any new games. Or maybe I'm allowed to design new games as long as I don't play them myself. That could work. At least then I get to potentially design that. Seems like a really sad existence though. But yeah. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Go Forever sounds like some Twilight Zone stuff. But sure. No, I can't. I'm not going. Look, I would. I'm not imagining that I can start playing checkers, which I could play using this Go set. I'm not. I'm imagining that I can only play Go. Go on different size boards. Go with different timing mechanisms. Go with different. That's all still Go. Go with a different commie or with different handicaps. That's still Go. But if you say, okay, Go on a triangular lattice, to my mind, that's now a different game. Yes, I can design a game. Should I? Yeah, probably not. But like, if someone had a gun to my head and said, if someone were wandering around, I don't know what kind of universe this is. I don't know why I started talking about this. Anyway, let's just forget the whole thing. Look, Go is a fantastic game. That's all I'm saying. And all I am saying is that these are games that I love. And to mind, because yeah, it's just putting so much focus on the people and talking about stuff so different. Twin it's like energetic, and the team modes, the fact that it's not once one person's so much better, you can balance up the teams. Photosynthesis, the marriage of the theme and the mechanics, the engine building nature of it. Lovely. Tiefe Taschen, its political shenanigans at its finest, at its most distilled. One Night, Ultimate, Werewolf, Daybreak, or Loup Garou, Puru Nui, an epic battle. Which, yeah, maybe we're getting to the point where I could actually get people to play that. But yeah, this is like something that just, it's all about that negotiation. It's all about that deduction. And I think that this is my favorite deduction game because I like those tight atoms where you can play a game and be like, oh, this is really cool. And then you play it like 5-10 times over the course of an evening. And then you build up a meta game. Doodles, like this whole notion of wanting to do something well, but not too well. Like no game does it better than Doodles. QE, like, oh my gosh, like doing any number you want. Like this is just a boom. Like this is just like genius, and like you can like push people to go into the billions it's like kind of political. It's kind of like all about what will people do. It's about analyzing that psychology, and obviously there's a little bit of strategy in there as well. I mean, when I look at there's a lot of these, it tells you lots about my tastes in games, I guess. It also tells you about what kinds of people I play games with, and Wavelength. Again, I like games that kind of tell you about the people, and we get into little debates. We get into debates about things that I'm not going to repeat on this podcast, because on this show, I keep calling it, because this show is a family-friendly-ish thing. And like Wavelength, you get into conversations, and Pandemic Legacy Season 1, that's like all about bringing people together, about cooperating, and about the story, and about riding those emotional hits together. You are all into it together, and I think that's with cooperation, there is almost a bigger stake, but there's a more sense of friendship building, if you know what I mean. And of course, Go. I think this is just the best game. And I don't. This honestly, Go was the only one that I feel like super confident about. Is like where that is. And yeah. Uh, uh, just because I show things does not mean I agree with them. Okay, can we have some quick top 3 of games you tried by category? So like top 3 dexterity, top 3 euros, top 3 deck builders, top 3 social deduction, top 3 bluffing. Yeah, I was thinking of like going into like a top 5 of like maybe I'll do 5 dexterity games I love and why, and like maybe it might have to extend dexterity to 10, to be honest, because there's but I could like honestly there's some things that I've not really gotten into. I've played 2 war games like that proper people would properly call war games. I've not played that many games that last more than 3 hours. I mean, Eclipse, Demacher, I guess Civilization is kind of long. Yeah. Oh gosh, Andrew. And yeah, for sure I will do maybe not top 10s, but I'll try and do top 5, probably the same way that this was like top 10, but I mentioned like 7 other games. I'll probably do like a top 5 and say, okay, these were my like almost theirs. But yeah, anyway, so that was, let me change the banners. So as this brings us to the wrap up. I hope that you've had fun with it. Rowan says, funny thing is, playing Pandemic twice is fun. You know what you're coming, and if you can't steer it, well, maybe you can't. Maybe you can. Anyway, so that was 10 games that I love, and I will always love them. I don't think there's anything that I put in my top 10 that I would say, yeah, I'm not going to love this in 50 years' time when hopefully I'll still be alive. There might be games when I'm like, okay, maybe if I might have gotten tired of it, but there's always going to be that love attached. I might be like, okay, I'm a bit too slow to be playing Twin It. I might say, okay, I've played. I mean, the mind, even if I might say, okay, I've played it so many hundreds of times, I might want to not play it for a while, but eventually I'll want to come back. That's like, yeah, it feels like all these games, like you come back because every time it's going to be different. And you get different conversations on the board, or different physical conversations in one night, where it's all about what you do. And so, yeah, that has, I guess my recap really started a bit before when I was flicking through all the things, but that is my thing. If you have enjoyed this and want to check me out, go to stuffbabez.com, stuffbabez.bigcartel.com, where you can buy my stuff. Twitter.com/stuffbabez is where I share the most stuff. Instagram.com/stuffbabez. I am now sharing pictures again. Twitch.tv/stuffbabez for streaming. That's the best place. Facebook.com/thingsbybez is a thing, and stuffbabez@gmail.com if you wish to email me for some reason. And oh my gosh, I forgot to actually load up the Twitch. So Thank goodness I have amazing moderators. And so thanks to my lovely moderators. Yeah, especially Xate for wielding the big sword and always being around, but also Alan Outson for, generally being there since the start, and Chris, like the new moderator, congratulations. I said I wasn't going to name names, but now I've started, for goodness sake. Yeah. The people who are still around, Andrew and Johan and Alan, yeah. And so Javier and like Dave Dawkins and like everyone else who popped in. It's just like really lovely having you. So thank you, everyone. And so, yeah, it's just been, and so, yeah, you're super awesome. So now we go to over to you. What are you up to? Anything you want to share? Only if you want to. No, that's a terrible song. Is there something you're looking forward to? Hopes or ambitions? You can share anything. Share something exciting or something trivial. Share something you've managed to do or something you're hoping to do. Something important or maybe something fun or frivolous. And so let me know in the comments whether it's down there or there. And thank you very much, Euron. That's super sweet of you. I think this is probably a highlight. So Euron wanted to share that they just learned that Canon has drivers to use my M50 as a HD camera. Yeah, that's cool. They made it so that you can use your Canon as a webcam, streaming cam in high res. Okay, that does sound pretty cool. Alan's going to put the washing out and then take the dog for a walk. Is it going to rain? Well, I guess that's up to you to find out. I mean, I'm not going to do your work for you. You look up the weather forecast. Come on. Aw, my low light says, you're all not thinking that I am the greatest. Aw. Multiple people can be the greatest. Like, this is like the third thing that I learned. You remember on that long ramble that I had? Like, the first thing that I learned was to, you can hope for things even if you don't expect them. The second thing that I learned, what was the second thing? Oh, I keep forgetting these things. Thank God Anyway, the third thing that I learned was that even if other people are the greatest, you can also be the greatest because we're all the greatest in our own way. And so, yeah. Your own can't compare apples and pears. I love that pun. That's very nice. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but anyway, so everyone, that is that. It has been lovely, and thank you as always. If you have enjoyed this show, then feel free to share, spread the word however you would like. If you whoops, I want to just check on Twitch. I'm going to do a quick raid. I think Zanny's. Oh, is that any not? Oh yeah, Zanny is playing. Cool. We'll go in and listen to some violin work from Zanny. That's who are going to raid. Share, spread the word. If you want to know what the next streams, look at stuffwithbez.com/streams. Tomorrow I am going to be with Phoebe Wild from Ludo Cherry talking about marketing. And then Friday talking about provoking sadness with Michael Fox of Hub Games. And then Lewis Shaw and all sorts of other amazing people over the next while. And yeah, you can check that out and feel free to put in questions ahead of time if you have specific questions, or if you want to suggest topics, or if you want to come on yourself as a guest, then feel free to get in touch. Yeah, if you want to come on as a guest, then you'll probably have to wait about 5 or 6 weeks because there's a bit of a schedule. See, doesn't think that the pun was intentional, comparing apples and pears. but States will take it. We are all peers here. Peers, my dears. Dave. Oh, I love you, Dave. Dave designed 3 new games since I ended up in Australia. Oh, but there's no one to test them with. Maybe, I don't know. I know that digital things just aren't the same, but there are people out there who will obviously do stuff, and hopefully you might be able to find people or get that digital testing working. But yeah, I think Dave's in Melbourne. I suppose that's quite far from Perth, I think. And Jeroen's going to learn streaming and recording for the future. So yeah, as we finish off, I think there is only one thing left to do, and I can't remember what that one thing left to do is, but maybe what someone can remind me. Ah, yes. Chris reminded me. We need to say bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song, and Alan's great. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. Oh, and now it's time to go. Sorry for flashing up things, but yeah, let's go. If you, Zanowano, if you're listening to this live, we're going to raid some excellent violins, and that's bye bye, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye.